Hey, Sean, client theater is sort of this phenomenon where you need to put on a show for your client to make them have the experience that they are expecting to have. And this is independent of the final project you're creating. And more as technology changes and as better cameras come out and gear gets smaller and lighter and LED lights continue to get better and better, and as more software makes things possible, you need less and less people to create something that used to need 3 people to run a camera. You used to need 4 people to set up all your lights and your diffusers and run all the power for it. And now you can run things off battery, and they're so light you can attach modifiers directly to them. They don't get hot, so you can put them closer to people. And as the industry changes and gets more nimble and gets more capable with the progress of technology, it's outpacing the expectation of the clients that have money. These old school clients and brands who come into a project expecting and wanting to pay $80,000, $100,000, $150,000 or more for a spot. And then you've got people all over the place. Look at Instagram, look at YouTube. There's so many talented filmmakers who are cranking stuff out with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera and a handheld gimbal, or just holding the camera handheld, and with the right editing and with knowing how your gear works and manipulating it properly, you can create stuff that looks like a team went into putting it together, when really it was 1, maybe 2, 3 people. And it's rivaling the production value of things that take studios and crews and weeks to shoot. But the clients have not caught up to understanding that some really, really good quality stuff can be created without having to shell out all this money. And one of my favorite examples is, in a lot of ways, and no, it's not a perfect exchange, but in a lot of ways, some of the new LED lights with some of the diffusers that are available and the modifiers can produce a light that is basically the same once it hits the subject as a big HMI going through an 8x8 onto your subject and taking up room and having to be way up in the air. And I know people can argue against, nothing's the same as a big tungsten, blah, blah, blah. But for all intents and purposes, and you know that for your clients, you can produce something that looks a certain way without a bigger light further away. You can have a smaller light closer up, and you can do things with the modifiers to make it, to shape it in the way that you need to shape it to make something look good. But clients a lot of times expect, or they're reassured by a team of 10, 15, 20 people, where you've got 2 people lifting up a big 12x12 diffuser, and you're matting out things and flagging out lights and all sorts of stuff, where there's a sense of comfort in that production of like, oh, you guys are serious, this is good. As where there's times when I show up to do interviews, and you can use a mirrorless camera and they look fantastic, and you don't, if you're controlling all the light, you don't need to be shooting in RAW. If you're able to monitor and set up with a little bit of thought, a lot of times you don't even need to shoot in log, because you've got everything controlled for your exposure the way that you want it. But when you show up with these things, there's sometimes it's like, oh, you're using a photo camera? Like, yeah, because it shoots video really, really well. And it started hitting me when I was shooting something outside and then inside in the same day. And so the matte box and little rig, my Tilta cage that I put on my A7 III, I kept it on my camera for the indoor thing. And when I showed up with this matte box, they were like, oh, serious cameras today. And like, people were making jokes, and everyone noticed, like, hey, that's a serious camera. It is the exact same camera that I've used every other time. It just has a matte box on it, which people think like, oh, matte box must be as serious. And that to me is this opportunity. And there's a ton of people like myself and people who are more talented than me creating really awesome looking stuff and grinding things out by themselves and just taking the time to only get the shots they need and light it in just the way they want it and make some really cinematic stuff with no crew, or with a really small crew for way less budget. And there's going to come a day soon, Mark, you quote me on this, there's going to come a day soon where the brands start to realize like, hey, all this money we're paying to the agency, there's a ton of that that's just waste and excess, and we don't need 15 people to light this thing. 2 would do it. 4 would do it. 1 could do it if they knew what they were doing, and if they had exactly their kit that they knew how to use and how to be dangerous with. There's going to come this reckoning where people start to realize, hey, these men and women are dangerous, and they're way less expensive. And there's this awesome middle ground to me. If you've got like this high cost tier up here, and you've got this whole middle side, and you've got the people down here, and I'm no judgment, but there's people who are doing videos for, $300, $500, where unless you're doing some ridiculous volume and breaking your neck, that's not a living. But there's this huge chunk in the middle where we can do an amazing project for $10, $15, $20, $25,000 that will rival the quality of something that you could pay $100,000, $150,000 for. But right now, these brands want to spend that money because they don't trust it. Same with look at any piece of gear you've bought. Look at anything you buy, and you say like, well, all these lights cost $1,200. Like every one of these lights is about $1,200. Here's one for $500, and your first question is always like, what's wrong with it? Why is it so cheap? And the same thing is happening with our clients and with our potential clients. Of they don't understand that a lot of it is theater. It's the illusion of what goes into a production, and sort of the history and the tradition of what you would expect, and you want to feel like you're on a Hollywood movie set. And the truth is, some of that isn't necessary to produce what they're looking for. And so I'm asking the question. I know a lot of these are sort of preachy soapbox things, but I'm asking the question, what do you do on set that makes you seem bigger? Like I use my matte box. Sometimes putting a big blimp around the microphone goes a long way. But there's things that I do sometimes when people are expecting, where I know it's not really affecting the final product, but I know it affects their perception of how important this shoot is to them, and that can be worth money. But I want to know, what are some things that you do to sort of puff your chest up a little bit and put on a show? And then also, is there anything that you're doing to help close that gap with, if we're producing similar things to content that is, 4 or 5 times more expensive than what we're asking for, but our content rivals it in quality? What are you doing to start to chip away and hit those relationships? Because for those of us in this middle tier who have the capabilities and the connections, if we can work together and start to collaborate and get some of these bigger clients and say, hey, we would happily all work on this and, take $5,000 a piece and do it for, $25,000 and produce something incredible. If we can work together like that and pool our talents, we're going to be dangerous. And that's where the future of video production is going. It is becoming so in demand, and everyone knows, like, there's so many streaming platforms, there's so many places for ads, there's so many places for content. And if we, as this middle tier of creators, can pool our resources and start to put stuff together and not undercut each other with pricing, but rather start to say, well, hey, if we work together, could we charge this, and could we produce something that would be on that level? I think we're going to have this renaissance in production that I'm really, really excited about. And so I have about 12 people on my squad that I love collaborating with, who are everyone is better than me at something, and a lot of people better than me at maybe everything. But I know that I can bring their skills to a project, and I know who I want for different projects and who would be best for different things. And I think if we all as a community can sort of come together and share this a bit more, there's a ton that we're about to do where you see these YouTubers who have gotten wildly successful, and there's all this jealousy of, like, how did they do it? And then these influencers are being hired by brands and stuff like that. But there's a bunch of us who are never going to be crazy huge influencers online, and a lot of us don't want that. But if we can pool our expertise and our knowledge and work together and create this collaboration and this collaborative where I know I've got 4 editors out there who do amazing stuff, who are willing to work for, you know, a couple $1,000s, then I can tackle more stuff. I can get more clients for less money and work with these people and build this team that can really be dangerous and start to take over those higher paying clients, and everyone wins because they'll pay less. I don't want to just do less work and charge more for it. I don't feel good about that. But if we can bring down the work so the client is paying less so they win versus what they were paying before, and we're getting paid more than we were before, and we're creating stuff that's just going to keep getting more clients, that's where I want to be, and that's what I'm excited about. And so I guess I'm asking for a lot of comments, but I want to have this discussion because every person that I talk to in person echoes this of like, yeah, there's this huge opportunity. I want to be a part of it. And I feel like every good conversation I have, I try to find work with those people, and I'm creating better stuff, and I'm collaborating, and I'm learning, and everything's getting stronger. And it's this rising tide raises all ships thing. And I want to know what other ships are out there, and I want to know who wants to be a part of this. So if you have an expertise in production, whether it's something, if you happen to be in St. Louis or wherever you are, we travel, we produce stuff all over. And if we know we've got operators in, you know, on the coasts and north and south and everywhere, that makes us more dangerous to say, hey, and there's been times that I have shoots where I'm like, well, you'd have to fly me to, you know, wherever to produce something, and that cost is a bit much. But if I know I've got a couple people there or closer to there that I can trust, who understand what we're going for and who want to be a part of this, that makes us all more dangerous, and that makes the potential so much greater. So this is the end of my ramble. Thanks for watching, and I hope you're trying to build something cool and bigger than yourself, and just leave a wake of awesome things behind you, because that to me is the coolest part of all of this, and being paid to do it is just such an amazing living and such an amazing opportunity that continually humbles me. But thanks for watching. By the way, as I've been making more videos in the past few days, I noticed that I really only wear like 3 shirts. So thanks for your patience with my wardrobe. That's all. See you later.